Okay, hello and welcome everyone to today's event on out-of-the-box integrations for Office 365 and Dynamics CRM. I'm Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com, and joining me today is Kyle Welliver of PowerObjects. As we get started, please know that you can add your feedback and ask questions. You can use the Q&A block that you should see to the right of the main presentation window to ask your questions. We also have a couple of poll questions that I'm going to open up right now. It's just a chance to get a little more feedback from you in the audience about your own use of different tools and technology. So if you wouldn't mind taking just a couple seconds to answer those questions, we'd appreciate it. And with that, I am going to hand things over to Kyle to get started.
Jason, thank you very much for the introduction. As he mentioned, my name is Kyle. I work for a Microsoft partner called PowerObjects. I'm going to be presenting today, of course, the out-of-box integrations with Microsoft Dynamics CRM and Office 365. Just a little background of myself. I've been working at PowerObjects for 4 years now. My first 2 years with this organization, I have heavily focused in on Microsoft Office 365, helping people understand the products, the implementation work. I did a lot of mailbox migrations to Microsoft Exchange Online. And for the past 2 years, I've been on the sales team, mostly on the inside sales team, helping small to mid-sized businesses with Microsoft Dynamics CRM and Office 365. So between that 4 years, I've kept really close in touch with the products and Microsoft's improvement on the integrations, and that's what I'll be presenting today. Now, to get our conversation started, I'm going to go through a couple quick slides here. I'll be kind of moving in and out of my PowerPoint presentation, so let's go ahead and get started with our first slide. So my first slide here
Kyle, Hey Kyle, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just a couple things I wanted to let you know. We are seeing a poll window up on your screen, so if you could close that down. And also, the results are in from the poll, and it looks like quite a few people are using the Outlook integration for CRM. And then it's about a quarter of the people have SharePoint integrated, and about 2/3 are using Skype for Business.
Thank you very much for that information. I believe I did close the poll. Is that now removed from my screen on your end? Perfect. So thank you very much again, and didn't really miss a whole lot with that first slide, so we'll just kind of move forward from here. Again, when you look at this slide here, I just real quickly want to introduce PowerObjects, which is the organization I work for. We are a Microsoft partner, and the best way to think about us is we are a professional services firm. Now, labeling ourselves as a professional services firm, we also like to kind of brand ourselves as a partner that's solely focused in on one of the Microsoft products, which is Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Now, that dedication and focus on Microsoft Dynamics CRM means that we do general implementation work for the out-of-box Dynamics CRM system settings, kind of manipulating the system, adding fields, views, tabs, scripts, relationships between entities, workflow automations, and etc. The other things that we do around here is that we actually build integrations with third-party tools, so like an ERP system, for example. We also can custom build applications on top of the solution. We have a lot of people on the phone who may know of us. We have these Power Pack add-ons. Those are custom-coded plugins that we have created, and we always are pumping out more and more. But the reason why I give you that little detail as to Microsoft Dynamics CRM and how we stretch our arms and kind of relate these products back into Microsoft Dynamics CRM is because the biggest product that we can relate back into Microsoft Dynamics CRM is Office 365. And Microsoft has already pre-built integrations that we can all be taking advantage of today. So that's the focus of today's conversation, is that integration that Microsoft has already built with their Office 365 tools into Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Now, this next slide here is, again, just kind of going over today's focus. So if you kind of look at the top here, today's focus, Outlook, SharePoint, Skype for Business. There are other integrations we can talk about, but we're going to just focus on these three for today's conversation. Now, starting kind of from left to right, the Outlook integration, I'm not going to do your kind of typical Outlook integration. Most people, from the poll that we just had, most people are using the Outlook plugin potentially. But if you're an Office 365 user, use Exchange Online, and you're a Microsoft Dynamics CRM user and you have Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online, you can now download an app to the Dynamics CRM solution. This might be a little bit different from what you are currently using today, which is a plugin. The reason why I like the app is because I believe it's the future. It's very lightweight, which means it does not weigh down your Outlook profile. It has a new, clean interface. Now, when I demo all this information, I will be showing it off from the Outlook client perspective, so you'll have that interface and understand what this looks like. The second topic I'll move into is the SharePoint integration. And again, a lot of people on the phone may or may not be using SharePoint. And again, when I talk about this, this is SharePoint Online. It comes with most Office 365 packages. It's one of the most underutilized integrations between Microsoft Office 365 and Dynamics CRM, but it's definitely one of the more hot topics that I have conversations with clients. You know, when you think of CRM as a solution, it's a database to manage data, but it's not a document repository. SharePoint is a document repository, so having the CRM solution along with your SharePoint integration, interfacing these documents that you're working on with the clients that you have saved in your CRM system, that's what I'm going to focus in on today, and that's what I'm going to present. Now, Skype for Business, this is a pretty popular name, and again, you know, not to say organizations struggle to understand. I think a few companies I talk to assume that Skype is just your general Skype account where you have like a personal login credentials, like through maybe a Microsoft Live ID. That's not the case for Skype for Business. Skype for Business is, again, synchronizing with your Office 365 login credentials, so your business login credentials. And this is somewhat new. They've come out recently with PSTN calling, so in Dynamics CRM, I can click to dial on phone numbers and launch right into a phone call. Again, PSTN calling, both domestic and international, as well as allowing you to do conference calling. So I'm going to kind of talk about all three subjects today, moving from left to right. Now, first thing I'm going to do, though, is talk about the Outlook integration. And again, what I'm going to do in my presentation today is I'm going to move away from the PowerPoint presentation, actually demo, and then when I'm going back into, let's just say, the SharePoint integration, I'll come back into my PowerPoint, go over a couple more slides. So having said all that, let me move away from the PowerPoint. Let me move into my demo environment. So I've minimized the PowerPoint, and I'm now demoing the Outlook app for CRM. To get today's conversation started, I've already logged into my Microsoft subscription. So you can kind of see up top here, I'm using a web browser. I went to portal.office.com, I used my login credentials, and now I landed on the home screen. Now, when I get to this screen, of course, I can dive into my Office 365 applications, or if you also have a Microsoft Dynamics CRM license assigned to you, you can launch in your Dynamics CRM subscription. Just to get the ball rolling here a little bit, before diving into the Outlook kind of app that I want to present to you, for the users on the phone that may not be familiar with what Microsoft Dynamics CRM even looks like, let me start today's conversation with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So again, now I'm in Dynamics CRM, still using the web browser view, and from here you can kind of see how the interface puts me on what's called a dashboard screen, which is putting up different types of content, data related to the information I have in my demo environment. But let me just real quickly move through the system, and to get the conversation moving again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to this blue navigation bar, and you see how I have this area here that says search for data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in a keyword. My keyword is going to be blue. So essentially what I'm looking for is any information related to the word blue that I have in my Dynamics CRM solution. So you can kind of see over here, I had this one specific account called Blue Yonder Airlines. Let me actually click on that account and dive into this information here. Again, staying in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So now I'm on a specific record. That record is Blue Yonder Airlines, which is an account in my Dynamics CRM solution. Again, just general information in here. All of this is for my demo environment, but the reason why I started here is because now that you see the interface to Microsoft Dynamics CRM, you see the interface to the Outlook, you see the interface in the web browser. I'm going to start to talk about the activity portion of this, which is, of course, the Outlook integration, like emails, calendar appointments, phone calls, and all this information you're tracking back into Dynamics CRM. when we talk about stickiness, user adoption, nobody really wants to go into the CRM system and start adding their tasks or creating their emails or calendar appointments. They want to do this through Outlook Client. So now that I've shown you again the interface of Dynamics CRM, let me take a step backwards. Let me go back to the screen that I started with, and I'm going to start by showing off the Dynamics CRM app for Outlook Client in the web version of Outlook. So I'm going to start by, again, clicking on the mail side of things, launching into the Outlook web app to start. Now that I'm in the Outlook web app, again, if this is something that might be a little unfamiliar to you, this is not a desktop copy. This is I logged in through the web browser to access this. It does kind of give a similar interface to my Outlook client on my desktop. But because I have downloaded the CRM app to my Dynamics CRM account, it does showcase right here in my Outlook web app the Dynamics CRM plugin. So let me click on that here and let that connect to my organization. And essentially what I'm doing here is I'm looking at this email here from Amy. And as I read the email and find the information, I can also, of course, showcase any CRM information that I have related to Amy. So I can see here I have Amy's information. It looks like over here I have an upcoming activity with her. I need to follow up with her when she gets back from vacation, which was spelled incorrectly. I have an opportunity that's open here as well. So again, I'm able to dive into this information specifically related to Amy using this app versus the plugin. Now again, I just want to say here, I'm still in the Outlook client on the web. This is again usually a turning point in most people's conversations of stickiness, user adoption, where they say, Kyle, this is all great, but again, we're still desktop people. We're struggling to get the user adoption in the web browser. So how can I have this same type of interface that you're showing off in the web down on my desktop? So that's when I move away from the web browser view and move down into the Outlook client. And again, this is something that most people might be familiar with. The desktop copy of Microsoft Outlook. Now I am on the newest version of Microsoft Outlook, which is Outlook 2016. If you want this to work, meaning the app that I'm going to demo for you again, you would need to download Office 2016. So again, once you have Office 2016 downloaded, you have the app plugged into your Dynamics CRM solution, you again would be able to see the option of clicking Dynamics CRM directly on your emails. Now when I click on that, again what's going to happen here is it's going to open up a new window. Again, as I look at this window here, as it starts to pull in the information. Again, what I'm also able to do here is I'm able to see the emails that I'm reading between Karen and myself. But once this finds the connection of my organization, I'm going to be able to see if I have any information with Julian being currently tracked in CRM. So there it is, it's pulling open this information. This email is being tracked against the Blue United Airlines account, that same account I was talking about just a second ago in the web browser. I have Julian's information right here as well. I can see the upcoming activities. It's still loading the cases, but it soon will show that information here as well. I can dive into the opportunities I have going on here. But one of the other big features here I want to point out is that all of these little tiles you see here, or any blue hyperlink, those are live links. So if I want to open up an existing opportunity I have going with Julian, I can click on the blue link, or click on the blue tile right here. If I see up top here, Blue United Airlines, the record that I have this tracked against, and I want to click on it like I just did, it pops open to its own window, that specific Blue United Airlines record. Now as this opens up, for the people who may not be familiar with Microsoft Dynamics CRM, just to kind of re-showcase to you again, it gives you the same interface as the web browser. So again, when we talk about stickiness, user adoption, you don't have to tell your team, here's how you use it in the web browser and here's how you use it in the Outlook client. Once you have these tracked emails using the CRM app, those hyperlinks, those live links in any of your emails will open up those records to their own window, much like I'm showing off to you right now. Now, let's take that same concept and let's talk about an email that may not be tracked already. So let me minimize that kind of dynamic CRM add-in for right now. Let me move to another email. This email was sent to me by a person named Eric. And again, let me, now that I've read the email, kind of gone through the information, I'm ready to see if this is currently being tracked in CRM or see some information related to Eric. So I click on the CRM tile. allow that to connect to my organization. And as it's connecting to my organization, again, it's essentially looking for Eric's information based on his email information that I have in my demo org. Now, when it's done with its search, currently it's showing that it's not finding anything related to Eric. So right away, it says, we cannot find Eric. Would you like to add this person as a contact? So if I wanted to, I could click on Create New Contact. Now, the nice thing about this solution is that it's automatically starting to autofill some of those fields, like the first name, last name, account. So if I wanted to start adding the account information here as well, I could do that. It autofilled Eric's email address. I could add more information like the phone number, the address, but then eventually here what I can do is save it and begin the tracking process. Now, let me do this all over again. Let me do this one more time here, because I'm going to show you another option of tracking or creating Eric as a record in your CRM solution. Again, we'll allow it to connect to my organization. Again, searching for Eric's information in Dynamics CRM based on the information I have in the email. Now that it's in here and it's found no record for Eric, again, I just showed off the create a contact record, but let me show you another option here by clicking on track. So when I click on track, it's essentially allowing me to find information in CRM. So maybe Eric is a contact record that already works for an organization, and in his email, I see that he works for a company called Blue Yonder Airlines. So what I can do here is I can type in a keyword, and I type in blue, and now I find Blue Yonder Airlines, the account. As I scroll through some of the contact records, maybe I don't find Eric. So essentially what I can do is I can track this email against Blue Yonder Airlines, the account, but then also add Eric as a contact record into the CRM solution, relating him to the Blue Yonder Airlines account. Again, I'm able to do that very quickly, very easily, using this Outlook app. That's kind of all I wanted to present from the Outlook app. One other quick note I want to make, though, is this currently does not work for tracking emails or tasks. So when I presented this to you, the email integration side portion of the app is currently what's available on the market today. But if you are interested in starting to use this, again, assuming that you are a Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online and an Office 365 user, let me show you how to download that app. So again, let me go back to this kind of landing screen that I started with, which again, when I go to portal.office.com, this is my home screen. This is what I see right away. If you are a system administrator, you would have a tile here that is labeled admin. When I click on that, let me go ahead and go into it, you're going to land on the Office 365 Admin Center. Now, when you look at the Office 365 Admin Center, and let me scroll down here a little bit, you have an additional admin centers for each Microsoft Office 365 tool, like, for example, Exchange, representing Exchange Online. When I click on the Exchange admin, it again takes me to, oh, sorry about that, skipped the wrong page. Let me just go ahead and click on that here. When you click on the Exchange, it takes you to a new page, which will be the Exchange Admin Center. Now, from here, you would simply go into Organizations. From Organizations, you would click on Add-ins. When you get to the Add-in screen, the Dynamics CRM app will not be pre-installed into your Office 365 subscription. So what you would need to do next is simply come into the plus emblem right here, and then add from the Office store. So once you get into the add-ins for the Outlook client, you could very quickly find the Dynamics CRM plugin by simply searching Dynamics CRM, which I just did. And now you can see right here, I have the add-in available to me, so let me click on that. And then what I would do is I would click Add. Now again, when I click Add, it's essentially taking the add-in and plugging it into my system. But there's still one more step I need to do before I'm actually able to use that add-in. So let me come back to this screen here. Again, the Exchange Admin Center, Organizations, and then I click on Add-ins. Let me refresh the screen here. And now you see this Dynamics CRM add-in, but currently you see how it's disabled. So I need to enable that for my users. So again, what I would do is I would go to this pencil button here. which is allowing you to edit this. And then I would essentially make this available for my users. And by default, if I wanted to enable it, I would go ahead and do that and then click Save. And again, when I click Save, it's now enabling that add-in for your team to use. There are other ways to set securities around that, and we can talk a little bit more about that later on. But that is going to plug in the add-on that I just demoed for you. And again, currently that add-in only currently works for tracking emails. The purpose of me demoing is because I think it's a clean interface. It's very lightweight. It's not as heavy as the plugin, which most people currently use today. And lastly, I believe it is the future. I think that Microsoft's going to continue to enhance that add-in and make it better for us all down the line. Let me move back into my PowerPoint presentation. So now that I've talked about the Outlook add-in, let's move forward in our conversation today, and let's now talk a little bit more about the SharePoint integration. So I have a couple more slides here I want to go over as far as the SharePoint integration standpoint goes. So just general information, kind of an overview of the SharePoint integration for people that may not be aware. I did mention this earlier, but I'm going to re-say it again. Dynamics CRM manages data. It gives you a clean interface. You can manipulate the system to be more tailored towards your company. But a huge not a huge limitation, but a limitation to the system that people typically bring up is that it's not meant to store documents. It doesn't have high storage. You don't have version history. You can't check in and check out documents. Where SharePoint Online is specifically designed to manage your organization's documents. Now, some other information, again, I just kind of said this, but SharePoint has 10 gigabytes of storage out of box, and it's only 20 cents extra per gig per month. Dynamics CRM, and again, this is the online subscription, has 5 gigabytes out of box with 10 gigabytes per gig extra that you need to purchase. So pretty large price difference there. Receive collaboration on these documents from users that may not have a CRM license. So again, if you look at your organization today and you say, and here's just a scenario for you, this may not be your organization scenario, but let's just run through a scenario here. If a salesperson in our organization receives a signed agreement and then uploads that agreement through the CRM solution, but it's really taking that document and storing it in SharePoint for you, a non-CRM user, let's just say the accountant on your organization, could go into the SharePoint site, grab that signed agreement, find the information that showcases the pricing, then create the order or invoice to be sent off to the client or to that customer. And again, the accountant, the person who's grabbing that document, never needs to go through CRM to do that. It's receiving that information just through SharePoint so a non-CRM user is able to access the documents. Now, again, SharePoint allows you to have more options with your documents like check-in, check-out, or versioning, which is very important for a lot of organizations. Again, a scenario here that may not relate to your organization, but let's just say you hire a college intern. A college intern doesn't really know what they're doing with this documentation. They might make some small edits to the documents and then upload them into SharePoint. Well, luckily for you, you can go back to the versions of those documents and then resave over a mistake maybe potentially your intern made. So that's a capability within SharePoint, a limitation that CRM does not have. Let me actually go ahead and skip the rest of these. Let's just go into the presentation now. So let me minimize my PowerPoint and go back into my demo environment. Let me again kind of start everything off with this landing screen that I've always been going back to. Again, portal.office.com, type in my login credentials. Now, typically a lot of people assume I just dive right into SharePoint, but let me actually go through the Dynamics CRM solution to get the conversation started here. So again, you might remember when I first started today's conversation, I said, let me search for Blue Yonder Airlines. I clicked on their account, and now I'm specifically in that Blue Yonder Airlines account. Now, all the data that you see here, this interface is all Dynamics CRM. But a lot of times when people say, what if I want to store documents and relate that information to the Blue Yonder Airlines record? Can I do that through Dynamics CRM? Well, when you have the SharePoint integration created, you notice at the very top of my screen, this blue navigation bar, how I have an arrow to the right. This allows me to drop down some common information related to Blue Yonder Airlines, and one of that is documents. So when I click on the documents section, again, what you're seeing here in just a second as it loads is all the documents that I have stored with Blue Yonder Airlines But now, okay, so now you can see those documents, but you can kind of see my mouse cursor over here towards the middle of my screen where it says document location. All of these documents are not being stored in CRM, they're being stored in SharePoint. SharePoint is just creating an interface through Dynamics CRM for me to grab those documents and utilize them. Now again, let me actually kind of take the same conversation and let me open up the screen that would appear in SharePoint. So again, now I'm moving away from my Dynamics CRM account and I'm in SharePoint, but those same documents, that same information I was just talking about within the CRM system is really being stored in SharePoint, and here's the look of that information right now. Now again, I mentioned this earlier in my PowerPoint, but this gives you more capabilities. So if I wanted to check in or check out this information, if I wanted to share these documents externally, types of information like that, I could also get some versioning or run some workflows behind these documents here as well through the SharePoint site, some capabilities that, again, people want, but you may not realize that they don't have that capability in CRM, so that's why they need to utilize SharePoint. The other big benefit that I like about SharePoint is the fact that you can synchronize these documents to your File Explorer on your desktop. So again, I'm a big fan of talking about stickiness, user adoption, and so many people today struggle to log into some web browser view and upload documents or save documents to something that is not on their desktop. So by synchronizing these documents, and I'll go ahead and show that here real quick, by syncing now, which should hit an error, or I'm going to allow, but this should hit an error because I've already done this once. When you sync now, it's going to take this library here, this document library, and it's going to move this down to your File Explorer on your desktop. And again, I've already done that, so you only have to do it once, but once you do that, you're going to be able to save documents or grab existing documents directly on your desktop. So again, this is kind of a view that a lot of people are used to. So again, sometimes people are saving documents just to their computers and then uploading or doing other ways of saving their documents, but through this SharePoint integration, synchronizing these CRM documents to your File Explorer on your desktop, I can move right into the Blue Yonder Airlines account and grab the same documents I was just demoing for you a second ago in the web, or I can create a new document and immediately go ahead and save that information right to the SharePoint site. So now that I've kind of talked about this a little bit, let me actually show you how to create the integration between SharePoint and Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So first off, everything starts with the SharePoint site, and you need to create your own what's called site collection. So I've already done that, and again, you can very quickly create your own site collection. A very quick way to do it is create a sub-site within a site collection that you might have already created. Then you would copy the URL that you get from that, and then with that URL that you have copied, you move into your Dynamics CRM solution. Now, again, from your Dynamics CRM system, let me use the blue navigation bar at the top of my screen to very quickly move into the system settings here. And from the system settings, there's an area called Document Management, which my mouse cursor is on right now. You would click on that. Now, the Document Management section in the CRM solution is really what's going to actually create the integration between SharePoint and Dynamics CRM. Again, in SharePoint, I'm just creating a site where I would be able to have this integration created or synchronizing through. When I have that site created, I would go into my Document Management settings, and from here, I would begin to enable that integration. So choosing the entities that I want to have synchronizing between Dynamics CRM and SharePoint, pasting in the URL that I just created in my SharePoint site, and then clicking Next. Now, the next screen here is something that I really want to talk about, selecting the folder structure. So you can actually select an entity-based folder structure, and I have a slide that will go a little bit more in depth on this, so a lot of people might be confused about what I'm talking about here. But I'm going to leave mine as an account-centric folder structure, and then when I click Next, it's actually going to enable that integration for myself. Let me back out of here because I've already done that, but again, this will get you started with the SharePoint integration. By the way, I forgot to mention this earlier on the phone call. I do have multiple resources. So as I move through this conversation, if you're looking to enable these integrations yourself, while I am demoing them very quickly, I have blogs that have been written. which will be provided to each person attending today's webinar, which provides step-by-step instructions on how to actually configure and set up each of these integrations. Now, one last thing here I want to mention as I'm in the SharePoint integration is once I have that enabled, I could also start to take advantage of the OneNote integration, which is very quick, very easy to set up. For a lot of people on the phone that say, I don't even know what OneNote is, my strong recommendation is that you look at OneNote. There's excellent YouTube videos out there. If you have Office 2016 downloaded to your computer, you probably have OneNote. It's an excellent way for you to manage notes, both internally, externally, collaborating, but then also creating those notes, utilizing OneNote to create those notes and interfacing that as well through Dynamics CRM. Let me move back into my PowerPoint. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. So I mentioned I have a couple more slides on SharePoint, so let me actually dive into that information. And in my presentation, again, just a minute ago when I was starting to set up the integration, I said that there's a way that you can create your folder structure. And this is something that a lot of people aren't even aware of. They might just go through the process. So account or contact-centric folder structure is the way that I recommend it. And so Power Objects, whenever we talk to organizations about Dynamics CRM, we start the conversation with somewhat of a primary entity conversation. So for most organizations, they are a B2B or a B2C type of relationship. So in a B2B, you might look at the account as your primary entity. The data kind of starts there, and then you're relating all these other entities to the account. So when I've had that conversation, you'd probably want to look at the account-centric folder structure like I had set up in my demo org. And what that means is that you can look at all your accounts, like for example, Contoso, Microsoft, or Power Objects. Then within that account, those related entities that you have, like you can see here I have this little arrow. I have quotes that I have related to Power Objects, contact records I have related to Power Objects, opportunities. Now again, let's keep that conversation moving forward. Maybe you have multiple opportunities you're working on closing with Power Objects. So I have opportunity number 1, opportunity number 2, opportunity number 3. If one of my coworkers was to save a document, maybe a signed agreement or any type of document to this opportunity number 3, because this opportunity number 3 is related back to Power Objects, I could be in the Power Objects account and I would see that opportunity or that document that was really being saved in opportunity number 3. Because again, AccountCentrex folder structure is taking the primary entity and any of those other related entities that you may have. If you store a document in that, it'll map back to the primary record, which is Power Objects in my kind of slide right here. Again, I have a blog I just wrote on this, so if anybody has any questions, I think it will make a lot more sense in the blog as well. Now, one more thing I want to mention before I move into Skype for Business. There's a lot of frequently asked questions around the SharePoint integration with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. The PowerPoint presentation will be provided to you as a follow-up. You can kind of go through some of these questions here on your own. I believe I do answer most of them here, as well as in my blog that I just wrote, that was just posted recently around the SharePoint integration. So moving forward here, the last piece that I wanted to bring into today's conversation now, and I'll spend probably a nice majority of our remaining time on, is the Skype for Business integration using the PSTN calling through Dynamics CRM. So first off, on this slide right here, let's just focus in primarily on Skype for Business and the new PSTN calling feature that Microsoft came out with late last year. So you can do Skype for Business PSTN conferencing, which again, I think that pretty much speaks for itself. Our organization currently has a bunch of conference lines. I want to be able to do PSTN conference calling through Skype for Business. You can also choose to have your team, let's just say here, for example, your sales team, who does maybe a lot of outbound or incoming phone calls. They can have those phone calls through Skype PSTN calling be domestic, or if you're an international company, you can choose to do domestic and international calling. And again, when I talk about all this, people who are utilizing Dynamics here today to manage leads, accounts, contacts, you have phone numbers saved in those records. You can interface, I'm sorry, not so much interface, but you can utilize Dynamics CRM then click to dial on any of the records that you have to launch into a phone call. So again, I'll be demoing that here in just a second. I have a few more slides here I do want to talk about. A lot of times when I do my my presentation on Skype for Business, people always ask, well, what plans do I need to have today? Because I'm a Microsoft Office 365 user, I have Skype for Business. Does that mean I have PSTN calling? If you just have a general plan, you'd probably need to add more licenses to your subscription if you want to include the Skype for Business PSTN calling or conferencing. So my next few slides here just kind of go over the plan that you would need if you wanted to have these capabilities. So for example, the slide I'm on right now, PSTN calling and conferencing for domestic calls only. Let's just say again you're mostly working in the United States or Canada or whatever country your office is in, and you want to just make phone calls domestically as well as have conference calls. This might be the type of plan that your organization might want to go with. Again, based on what you have today, you could use these slides here, these next few slides here, to find out what plan you're currently, the plan that you would need to choose in order to have this included with your subscription. Again, that's 5 slides in a row. The PowerPoint will be followed up with, so if you want, you can look at this information on your own. Again, a few more slides here, then I move into the actual presentation side of the Skype for Business, but there's always a lot of questions behind this. It's a new product. A lot of people are kind of wondering how it works. A lot of people kind of want to know, does it work with my phone system or my phone provider today? And this slide right here kind of helps answer these questions. And again, I will provide resources with more detailed information that answers each of these questions. But very common question I get is, well, our company just invested heavily in phones, desktop phones that our organization can click and dial out of. Can I connect my PSTN calling through my phone that's sitting next to my desk? And the answer is yes. And again, all of this information will be in a resource that you can look up on your own to learn a little bit more. Another a lot of more common questions are kind of displayed right here, but some of the general ones that I get a lot are also, can I put someone on hold? Can I transfer someone? Is there call forwarding? Can I transfer to my smartphone if I was on the go? Also, is there an automatic answer and a way to route my calls? And again, all of these are yeses. But now my last slide here is probably the most important question I get on a consistent basis regarding Skype for Business and PSTN calling is, Kyle, I have phone numbers that are existing. Our team does not want to change our phone number because customers recognize that phone number. Customers will call that phone number. It would be too big of a change to have a new phone number. Can I take my existing phone numbers and import those into the Skype for Business solution? So again, I'm basically making all my outbound phone calls through Skype, but I'm still using the same phone number I have today. And the answer is yes. There's an option to port order in your phone numbers through the Skype for Business solution, and I will show this just very briefly in my PowerPoint, or my actual presentation. So again, a lot of those questions that people may have around Skype for Business, the answers are yes, and I have other pieces of information I will follow up on as we wrap up today's conversation to show you exactly how that works. Let me move away from my PowerPoint presentation. Let me move back into my demo environment. And again, I'm going to start from that screen I've always been starting from, that portal.office.com home screen. When I launch into my Dynamics here, or when I launch into my Office 365 solution, what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to show you what it looks like to set up the Skype for Business PSTN calling. So typically what I've been doing is I've been just demoing and then showing how to set up. I'm going to first show the setup work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right into that Office 365 Admin Center. From the Office 365 Admin Center, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show off my demo user. So let me go into my active users here. And the reason why I'm going to show this off is because I want to show you what it looks like, or I want to show you the plan that I assigned to my demo user. So again, now that I'm in my demo environment and I've clicked on my personal information, let me click on licenses. So for my demo account, I have chosen to upgrade from what was the E3 plan to the E5 plan. And again, the reason why I did that is because the E5 plan comes with the Skype for Business Cloud PBX calling. It also comes with the PSTN conferencing line. So I really wanted everything here. I wanted an individual phone number for me to utilize. I also wanted a conference number for me to be able to utilize. So I was able to get all that with the E5 plan, but I still needed to include one more piece to my subscription in order for me to actually make those outbound phone calls. So when I scroll down towards the bottom here, I have Skype for Business, PSTN, domestic and international calling assigned to myself. So again, depending on what type of licenses you have today or what type of capabilities you want out of Office 365, for me, I use Exchange Online, I use SharePoint Online, I utilize Dynamics CRM, so I invested to have the E5 plan as well as domestic and international calling, so that way I could have everything I need with my solution. For a lot of companies out there, they might say, well, we really only use Skype for Business. We don't even use Exchange Online. So in that type of scenario, you might just want to buy standalone plans of Skype for Business, which again, I do have listed in my PowerPoint presentation, the options that you would choose. Now that I have the licenses assigned to my user, what I need to do next is I need to actually do some of the configuration work, the setup work in the Skype for Business Admin Center. So let me go back into the Admin Center, kind of that home screen here. So from the home screen, if I scroll down, again, earlier I mentioned how you have these other administration centers like Exchange Admin Center. Let me actually move into the Skype for Business Admin Center, which is essentially where I'm going to enable those users to be able to use PSTN calling. So now that I'm in the Skype for Business Admin Center, just some general information here that you might need to know about. You would go into the users and then you would select the users that you want to have a phone number assigned to. So again, I've already done this for my user, for my demo environment. I've provided myself a voice, a phone number. So you can kind of see here, this is a phone number for my demo org. I've also provided a dial-in conference number for anyone to use. I can always reset my conference ID if I feel like I need to as well. I think that's pretty useful to know. But again, there's other setup steps. A lot of people say, you know, I need to do it this way or that way. So I just want to kind of give you a general overview of this information. For the other questions that people may have, again, I have resources that I can provide to you that will answer a lot of your questions. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move away from this environment, and let me move down all the way down to my desktop. And let me start today's demo of Skype for Business with the Skype for Business desktop copy. So again, a lot of people who have Office 365 today who are using Skype for Business for instant messaging or maybe having internal meetings or external meetings, this right here might look very familiar to what you use today. The only differences between your Skype for Business desktop and mine is that I have a little keypad here. And that little keypad here is going to allow me to punch in a phone number. And when I punch in a phone number here, I can immediately dial out and now launch right into a phone call with the person that I'm attempting to call or reach out to. So again, when I'm on this phone call with this person wanting to talk to, a lot of times people are always asking me, can I transfer these phone calls? And again, yes. Let's just say that you are making a phone call. You are making a phone call and you want to transfer that phone call to your smartphone because you're about to leave the office. You can, of course, transfer, or your receptionist. Again, I only have one person added in my demo org, so I'm the only person that can make outbound phone calls, but envision that your whole team switches over. The receptionist answers the phone call and she needs to transfer to a coworker. The whole list of coworkers would be available right here as well. Let me end this phone call here. Again, the keypad system allows me to very quickly click on, or type out phone numbers and then launch into phone calls, but let's take that same type of concept here. Let's move into the Outlook. And again, you might remember just a second ago when I was demoing and I said, look at how I'm able to see Julian's information. I have my CRM app plugged into my Outlook profile. Let me actually click on that app again. Let me pull open the record of the Blue Yonder Airlines information here. So it's authenticating, connecting to my organization. Allow that to connect here real quick. So now that I have Julian's information opened up, again, maybe I'm popping open his record to its own window by clicking on the blue link here, but I am also ready to make a phone call to Julian. So all I need to do is simply click on the phone number, and again, what it's doing here is it's launching into a phone call using Skype for Business. So that's one way of click-to-dial utilizing Dynamics CRM. Let me hang up here again. Now the other option, of course, is utilizing this through the Dynamics CRM interface on the web browser. So let me move into that interface here right now. Got a lot of pages open. Let me just go over here. Oops. All right, so back in my Dynamics CRM solution, let me move back into the Blue Yonder Airlines record that I was in previously. Again, same concept here. I'm looking from the web browser view at Blue Yonder Airlines. I immediately see kind of on the left-hand side of my screen, I have a phone number. Let me go ahead and click on that phone number. And now what's going to happen is it's going to ask me to launch into a phone call. So I'm now launching into a phone call. Again, as I'm launching into the phone call, let me go back into the Blue Yonder Airlines record here real quick. And let me just mention to you again, I can immediately start to take down the notes from that conversation they might be having because it's automatically wanting me to create the phone call activity. Maybe perhaps I left a voice message, and now I click OK, and now I'm essentially creating the phone call activity with that record, the Blue Yonder Airlines record, leaving those notes as well as creating the activity. So let's use this same concept here. Let me hang up again. Let's use this same concept here, and again, let's expand upon it, and let's just bring into the conversation of a salesperson that's making a bunch of phone calls a day and needs to get through these phone calls very quickly. So let's just assume that you're using leads in Dynamics CRM. And again, this may not relate to your business, but I just want to demo it for you, kind of give you a perspective of what this could look like. So now that I click on the leads portion of my solution, maybe my manager stops by my desk and right away in the morning says, Kyle, we just got back from a trade show. We have around 20 to 25 leads in the solution we have placed in. Why don't you go into the system and find those leads and start to make phone calls to each one? So I'm now looking at all leads, but let me specifically kind of populate this information on the right-hand side of my screen. In my demo org, I've created these different charts and graphs to display my data. So one of the charts and graphs that I've created was a lead source. Now this lead source is displaying where all my leads are coming from. So I have 29 from advertisement. Looks like I have 9 that are coming from other Microsoft partners, but this little brown area right here shows I have 23 leads that came from trade show. Let me click on that. So now there's all these leads. The status is currently set at new. I know that these leads are good for me to start making phone calls to. Let me start at the very top of those leads here and dive into John. So again, I'm looking at John's information here. I'm able to see his information. I can, of course, review maybe notes that my coworkers took as they were at the trade show if I needed those notes. But let me now just go ahead and start making those phone calls. So let me click on John's phone number here. Again, launching into a Skype phone call. Let me go back into John's lead information. It's, again, having me create the record. That phone number, of course, does not work because it's fake for my demo. But I'm taking down the notes in that phone call. I'm clicking OK. Now, I'm done with that lead. Perhaps, again, I forgot to mark the voice message, but let's just say I left a voice message and I'm ready to move on to the next lead. I, of course, can move on to the next lead very quickly by clicking on the next record on the upper right-hand side of my screen. It's now moving away from me from John, and it's moving on to the next lead from the trade show. I, again, look at the information, ready to make the phone call, click on the phone number, launch right into a phone call. Let me go back into Aaron's information here. I begin to take down notes. Let's just assume that that number was not fake and it's an actual real number. I connect with Aaron. I'm gathering the notes. I'm updating more lead information like estimated budget information. I'm, again, getting information that's related to qualification. So maybe Mark is interested in our products or our services. I've captured the notes that are good. I'm now ready to qualify that lead. Again, I'm working through these 23 leads that my manager told me to go through, qualifying, potentially disqualifying, but at the same time, you can see how quickly I'm able to go through those leads using Skype for Business and using the click-to-dial features. Now, that's all I really wanted to present from that perspective. Let me go back into my PowerPoint one last time here. That is kind of it for what I wanted to present to you today. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. Now, one thing I did skip is Office 365 groups. Again, I've mentioned this a few times, and I'll say it again. We have a lot of sources. I've been working heavily on trying to get these conversations going around the out-of-box integrations that Microsoft Dynamics CRM has. If you're a user that says, I was hoping to see Office 365 groups today, or you're just kind of wondering what is Office 365 groups, I do have another pre-recorded webinar that you can watch around this, and then as well as other sources to some of the information that we've already talked about today. Now, if you have more information or if you'd like to reach out to Power Objects, feel free. Again, my information will be provided here as well. I really enjoy every day talking about Microsoft Office 365 and Microsoft Dynamics CRM. I think Microsoft's doing an excellent job of kind of opening the doors within all of their offices and saying, how can we integrate these products together? And through the presentation I was able to show you today, it's only going to continue to get better. That's it for my presentation, and Jason, let's go ahead and open up for questions.
All right, great. And there are a few questions that have already come in that we'll start getting to here. If you haven't asked yours yet, please do enter it into the Q&A block and get it onto the list here. So let's get started. There were a couple questions, Kyle, that I'll kind of bring together here. People asking, were you showing CRM online or on-premise, and is this functionality available for on-premise?
Very good question, and I was demoing everything for online, and my immediate answer is that it only works for online. I think that a lot of people are starting to see trends in Microsoft's cloud. I think that if you were to go home from work and watch the news, you'd probably see a commercial for Microsoft's cloud. So that's not to say that maybe somewhere down the line it's not going to be available for people who are on-prem, but this is up-to-date Dynamics CRM, and only people who are Dynamics CRM Online users get the most updated copies of what Microsoft's producing. So again, just my immediate answer to your question is everything I demoed is online, and only online users can use what I'm demoing.
Okay, and does the app work, well, this is again for the CRM Outlook app integration, does the app work for Outlook 2013?
That's a good question. You can download the preview version for 2013, but if you want to upgrade to 2016 and use the non-preview version, you'd have to be on Outlook 2016. But again, I mean, for people who are on Outlook 2013, don't feel like upgrading right now. The preview version is very good. Just know that, again, you know, Microsoft's next rollout version of the add-in I would recommend at that point that you upgrade to 2016 because it's going to come out with a lot more functionality and features than what I presented to you today.
Okay. Someone wrote that, again, this is, I think, getting back to the Outlook app. Does it have to reconnect to the organization each time you use it?
Correct, it does. So that little time that it takes for it to spin across my screen, it does reconnect. And again, it's Microsoft's kind of first iteration of it. I think, again, the interface is the big reason why I like to present it to you, as well as the fact that it does not weigh down your Outlook client. But yeah, it's not perfect yet. And I would hope that somewhere down the line we would take a look at that. And by the way, if you want, and let me actually move away from that here real quick. Let me move into this whole, see the little smiley face right here? If people who can still see my screen, if you click on that, that's actually going to allow you to provide feedback to Microsoft on this plugin. So if you do have comments you'd like to make, again, I'm a Microsoft partner, I'm not Microsoft directly, I will take your information and pass along to them, or you can do that yourself by clicking on the little smiley face here and actually providing your own feedback to Microsoft on the app.
All right. Let me bring up the next question. So again, related to that same portion of the demo, can you create a lead instead of a contact?
Yes, correct. You could create a lead instead of a contact. And let me kind of go back into this conversation here. let me change it here real quick. You can see right here I have account, contact, lead, opportunity. I can scroll over. I can create a case. Again, if there's custom entities, I'm actually not 100% sure how custom entities work down here. But yes, the immediate answer to that question is you can create a new lead versus creating a contact or an account.
Okay, great. And that was actually the next question. Is it able to show other entities besides cases and opportunities? Are there, so, and this one jumps ahead a little bit when you were, I think, looking at the PBX and calling. Are there any options for SMS?
No, but this is a good question, and I don't mean to steer people away from the Microsoft conversation, but Power Objects, the company I work for, I mentioned earlier that our company builds add-ons. Some people might know of what's called Power Pack add-ons. It's pretty well known throughout the Microsoft world. Those are created by us. We have one called Power SMS. If you visit our website, you're going to notice at the very top of the website an area that says add-ons. One of those add-ons specifically is SMS, or I hope that you can get my information as we wrap up, and I would love to talk to you about it because, again, we have a tool for you, but the immediate answer is no, that's not part of the Skype for Business features that I was able to present today.
Okay, I want to make a last call for questions. The only other thing people are wondering about is how they can get access to that pre-recorded webinar on Office 365 groups and access to the recording for this event. So I can tell you for this event first, yeah. we are going to make that available in the next day or two, and either myself or Kyle from your team will reach out and let folks know when this recording is available.
Yeah, thank you very much for mentioning that. And then I just want to say to everyone on this meeting that this is actually my kind of conclusion. I've done 3 other webinars that are each a half hour. One was on the Outlook app and SharePoint integration. Another one was on Office 365 groups, and the last one was on PSTN calling. I actually go a little bit more in depth than I did today on each of those products. Along with that, I have resources with each one. So as a follow-up, we can send you hyperlinks potentially, and I don't know, Jason, if that's going to come through you, but at the same time, just want to let everyone know there will be hyperlinks sent out to each person that will break down specifically each subject that we had talked about in today's phone call.
All right, excellent. And I do want to remind folks to please look for a survey that should pop up after you depart today. That feedback really helps us at MS Dynamics World. It also helps our presenters to understand what you thought of today's event and how to make our events better in the future. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions right now, so we'll begin to wrap up. Kyle, thanks so much for taking us through so much great material today.
Thank you very much for the time, everyone.
All right, with that, we are going to conclude today's event. Have a great day.